Welcome to another episode of Beyond the Pod. I'm Brandon Mileski, former Golden Gopher great Pat Micheletti with me. And Beyond the Pod, as always, brought to you by SodaStick.com and Culturama. Pat, we finally have some hockey on the horizon. We have hockey scheduled coming up here on the next week or so.
Fingers crossed. Yes. Next week, I believe everything gets going in the Big Ten. And that's good news. That's something we've been waiting for a long time.
Yeah, a week from today, Big Ten hockey starts. Minnesota will take on Penn State on Thursday night at 7:30. You'll be able to hear that game on Twin Cities News Talk AM 1130 FM 103.5 and also on the iHeartRadio app. We're now joined by the head coach of the Minnesota Golden Gophers men's hockey team, Bob Motzko. Bob, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it. And after kind of this extended off season of uncertainty and not knowing when things will get started, has the energy changed at all when you finally have something concrete on the schedule?
Well, a couple of things. One, yes, energy is amped up, but let's just get there. I mean, let's get this thing started. And we've got two games in the Big Ten this week. Michigan's taking on Arizona State, and Notre Dame and Wisconsin are going at it. And let's get the train moving. And I think once we get the train going, it'll be hard to stop. And,
hey, Bob. Before we get to your team and the outlook and some of the players, this is the 100th year of Gopher hockey. What does that mean to you?
Well, I mean, it's awful special to think 100 years ago and all the history and the tradition that's gone on with Gopher hockey. And then, how we sit in this beautiful arena and the amenities we have. Yeah. And the commitment from this university, this hockey program in this state. There's a lot to celebrate. That's the only, what's probably going to happen is because of COVID, we're going to lose some of the pageants we could have had. I think you might see a little bit of 100+1. I think we might save a few things for next year when the fans get back. But there's so much to celebrate around our state with the players that have played here, the fans that have supported this program. And we really have some cool things, in the works. But you might get it over 2 years now.
Yeah.
Bob, I don't know if you know this, but Pat is one of the greatest Gophers that ever played in your program.
Yeah. In my mind only. Yeah.
The way college hockey is constructed now and players leaving for the NHL, will any player ever get to Pat Micheletti, John Mayasich type numbers ever again?
No, it's pretty impossible. You throw up big numbers like Pat did, they're going to get an exit strategy from school. In reality now, 100-point guys are gold. It's just a little standard that's changed. You get to 150 and sometimes 180 points that we're seeing. I mean, that's the top of the pyramid right now in college hockey, a career point wise like that. We kind of now around college hockey, he's a 100-pointer. He's a 100-pointer. Well, Pat was a 100-pointer in 1 year. That's just the nature of the way it is now. And you find you just want a lot of 100-pointers in your lineup, and then you're going to have a heck of a team.
Yeah, the game's changed so much too, decade to decade, and the guys are bigger, fast, stronger, the depth, the way, maybe the style, it's different era, different time.
Goalie equipment. I mean, that's the one when you still mirror a picture of a goalie, even from Pat State to now. And I mean, these goalies are monsters.
Yep.
Walk around them and the equipment that they wear. I mean, that's one of the real big challenges that you've got is try to get pucks around these big goaltenders.
Well, yeah, the big thing is we used to be able to see the net when we were coming down, coming down the right side or whatever, right? And you could pick a spot. Now it's like, man, I hope it trickles by them, or, you don't see many, clear shots going in anymore.
No, it's pretty difficult because you don't see a lot of net. You're trying to shoot now where he's to the hole that's going to open up when the goalie moves.
Right.
Goalies that are patient now, hard to score on patient goalies.
Bob, your team was named the preseason favorites to win the Big Ten. How do you accept as a coach that kind of news? Are you superstitious where you don't want any accolades thrown towards your team, or are you saying, hey, we want to be contenders to win this conference and we're going to accept those expectations?
Well, I have two thoughts on it. One is, I don't know when it's kind of a college football thing that when did they start preseason coaches picking candidates?
Right.
It's really silly, but it's for fans. It's for to build the start, get the excitement going the start of the season, and I accept that. The fact that we were picked first, I mean, it's kind of tag you're it. You heard me say that, and the way we finished last year, and the fact we have so many returning players, and like 90 goals or something. I've got it written down. So we've got a lot of offense returning. Our goaltending's returning, and our goaltending from Christmas on last year was outstanding. So it's kind of tag. We're going to give you that moniker right now, but the minute you play your first weekend, that's all over.
Yeah.
And our league is going to be the exact same. And you've heard every coach around our league say, hey, 7 teams really think they can win it, but it's true. I mean, we go back to last year, and we won't rehash it a whole lot today, but there was a game late in the year. Michigan State was at Penn State in overtime.
Yep.
Penn State scored the overtime goal. If Michigan State would have won that game, you had a 5-way tie for first place. It ended 1 goal in overtime.
Yep.
But Michigan State then finishes like in 5th place or 6th place because of the 1 goal. That's how crazy our league is in the standings. So, we have to stay COVID free. We have to stay injury free. We got to, any team, if you're going to win at the top of the standings.
All right. Let me rephrase the question then. Brandon asked you how you feel about it. How do you want your players to take it going into the year?
I mean,
because we talked about Springer
I like
leaving and all that kind of stuff.
Even the fact that once it's over, if I talk 1 more minute about it, that's the most I've talked about it. With you guys.
Right.
So how I take it, I like the fact that people think well of us, but it's over. I mean, we have to play Penn State next week to get our season started. And our guys know, like athletes know that. Pat, Pat, when you were a player, if somebody told you, you're the preseason pick to be the leading scorer, great. Now you got to get to work.
Yeah.
Now you got to get to work and get after it. And that's the truth. And we got to get ready for Penn State. And it's for the fans. It's to build excitement with inside college hockey, inside our fan base. They should be excited. We got a good hockey team. Well, now let's get to work.
Well, let's talk about the Penn State matchup next week. You play them Thursday night and then Friday afternoon, a 3:00 game. I know you've only been here for 2 years. This is year number 3, but even going past preceding you, this is for some reason Penn State has kind of had the Gophers number over the last 4 years or so. Do you have any theories as to why there's been kind of a matchup issue between the Gophers and Penn State?
Well, I don't have a theory, but I can tell you they were awful good. You know how a team can kind of come together. Penn State last year, senior goaltender. You talk about 100-point players. I mean, their whole lineup was littered with them, and they were upper class players. There was a team, a program around the country last year. Penn State being one of them. They had seniors, but they lost 170 points off that team. That tells you how good that team was last year. And all credit goes to Guy Godowski and their staff. I mean, it all came together for them. And now that's college athletics. Now you try to rebuild it, but they got a heck of a facility out there. It's a Big Ten school. They're going to do a great job in recruiting. And it's been a compliment to college hockey to see a new upstart program, but they got a lot of power, when a school like that starts hockey. And it's and they're going to find their niche. They're going to be forever. And they were ahead of the Gophers. I don't know how many years it's been. I know my 2 years. We thought we were closing the gap last year.
Yeah.
And I know our fans don't want to hear the Gopher coach say, we're closing the gap on a program, but it was the truth. We had played them at their building. We had leads in both third periods, and their older guys took control of the game. And then we were going to get another crack at them in the playoffs, and we wanted that. We were scratching the surface, but that's how good they were. And we have to fight and claw and get back. That's college athletics.
In preparing for Penn State next week, obviously things are different. There's going to be some rule changes, shortening the intermissions, blah, blah, blah. But you're not going to have any fans there, just family, friends, whatever. How do you prepare your team for something like that, to get them, to get that focus and ready to play and the intensity? And is there anything you can do, or just, I don't know.
Pat, I'm not sure that they're one. I haven't lived through this before.
Yeah, no one has,
So
right?
I don't have an old book to go back and read. I can't call another coach and go, hey, what would you do in this situation? The one thing I've talked about with our team that I thought was indicative of hockey is the National Hockey League played with no fans in the bubble in Edmonton and in Toronto. I was so impressed at how hard they.
Yep.
And if there's something you can draw off, and we've talked about it with our team, if there's a sport that can go out there and lay it on the line with nobody in the building. Now you got to get there. We watched it happen in the National Hockey League, and I know it's Stanley Cup playoffs, but it will be different. As excited as we are, I have thought of that when we come through the tunnel, and all of a sudden it's quiet. Is that gonna bring the temperature down? You just got to have faith. There's too much excitement inside our program this year with our guys returning to get started, but we'll all adapt to it. Like after you come out of the tunnel for a few series, you're gonna adapt to it, and you will see good hockey played. It might be a little up and down. I'm more worried about staying healthy. And
right.
And the fact that we'll see how our fans respond watching on TV, and our players are going to know that we're going to have good crowds following us on TV, and we got to put on. We got to give 100%, and I give hockey players, watch what we saw in the NHL, a lot of credit, and our guys need to follow suit.
Well, Bob, speaking of health, you guys kind of have an irregular schedule compared to most years. So you've got Penn State on Thursday and Friday, 2 days between another series against Ohio State on Monday and Tuesday, and then the next set of series you'll go Thursday, Friday, then Tuesday, Wednesday. So four games in 6 days, and then 4 games in 7 days later on. So from a coaching standpoint, are you going to be spreading out the minutes more? Are you practicing differently? Are you preparing differently? Splitting goaltenders more often? What's kind of your philosophy going into this irregular schedule?
All of the above, Brandon. And that's, I can tell you do have to watch it. You have to play your lineup, and you've got to play deep, and you can't run guys out of gas. We'll have enough energy early in the year, and you just hope that when you get those stretches like that you're healthy. It's kind of a catch-22. The coaches have really been wanting Big Ten Network to grab more games and get more games on TV. And normally we're a weekend warrior league. Well, you're always battling against so much competition. Well, they said, okay, you want more TV? You were going to give it to you, but you're playing Monday night. So we won the battle, but we now are going to, that's the reason why is there's so much inventory open Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Football, you don't see a lot of Saturday games for hockey because that's football Saturday right now. So that's the reason is because of COVID right now and no fans, and people want to watch it. You're going to see this with basketball as well. I'm sure that we're going to be spread out throughout the week to give fans the opportunity to watch. And we just got to be prepared for it. And we'll do our best, spread our lineup out, play a lot of players. We have the depth this year where we can do that. And we'll adjust to it. They always do.
You look back at last year, really, really young team, a lot of new guys. But probably the biggest question mark going into the year was the goaltending. And it fluctuated here and there at the beginning and middle of the season. But I thought at the end of the season, your goaltending was, I might want to say as good as anybody in the country.
And it was, Pat. I mean, we started last year with 3 new goalies. I don't think I've ever done. And Jack LaFontaine was a transfer in, so he was coming, out of Penticton, but he'd been at Michigan. So I'm gonna spitball here, 10 games that he'd played in college hockey, so relatively inexperienced. And Jack, as you well know now, voted one of our captains, and he had votes last year before he'd ever played a game. That's the type of kid he is. But
great kid. And
then you had 2 freshmen, and we really like Justin Close as well. We think we have 3 outstanding goalies. When you start, and Jack was last year like one of our first road trips, freshmen do a lot of the unpack the bus, unpack the bus and pack it up. He was helping the freshmen. And I go, what are you doing? You're an upperclassman. He said, Coach, I'm new to the team. I think it took him a half a year to get comfortable because he was so respectful to the process and didn't want to step on any toes. Well, once he kind of ripped the shirt off and said, okay, I'm here to play, we really saw a battler in net for us. And then we saw Mo, as true to form, a young freshman, just got better and better. Our goaltending numbers from Christmas on were
really good.
39, almost a 940 save percentage. You're going to win a lot of hockey games.
Yeah.
And they've got some confidence now coming back. And you're right, Pat, that was a huge question mark for us last year. And I always use the Lou Holtz thing. I don't mind starting a year with unknowns, but you don't want to end a year with unknowns. We ended the year with some goaltending. And we feel we're in good shape right now.
Other than Jack, you've got Sammy Walker, Brandon McManus, and Ben Myers as your other three captains. What makes those three captain material?
Yeah, well, Sammy, just a respectful young man, works his tail off day in, day out on the ice, has everybody's respect. And he got it obviously by being voted captain. And we had 19 freshmen and sophomores last year, so you could see where a lot of them gravitate to Sammy. I think that's the reason why we didn't have a lot of upperclassmen.
Right.
Why it was Tyler Nanny at the upper class levels, and then a lot of those guys gravitate to Sammy. McManus is he's our vocal guy. He keeps everybody well liked, well respected inside, but he's a talker. He's our guy that's gonna poke at people and push some buttons and then Ben Meyer, a lot of similarities to Sammy Walker. Like, he's a silent assassin. He doesn't say a lot, but his work ethic and it's at a high level.
Yeah.
In practice and in games. And so he just draws the respect from his teammates. And so we're in very good hands with our leadership. And Scott Reedy does a great job as a senior coming back, and Munson's well respected. We got a leadership team inside that locker room right now.
When you look at your team, and we look on paper, and there's a reason why you guys were picked first, and et cetera. What are a couple things that you want to really see improve from your team this year to take it to that next level?
Well, there are two areas, and I'll go in reverse order of important. But one is we are going to play a lot of young defensemen this year. We only have two upper-class defensemen in Stucker and Brinkman, who have played for us and are going to be a big part. The rest are freshmen and sophomores. But it is but we gave Lacombe last year and Johnson enormous amount of ice time. And now we're going to Faber and Kester and Carl Fish into the group. There's talent at that level at an extremely high level. We'll be young on D early, but I think very quickly in the first half that group's going to really adapt. Garrett Reboyne's one of the best coaches I've ever been around. He is going to hold that defensive core in. I've watched him do it now for years. But we are going to have some early season hiccups with a young D-core, but I'm just going to pawn it off because it's not going to last long. They're going to get good quick. But the big thing for us, we need to take another step individually as a hockey team. And I'll give you some example. Like last year, our leading scorer, Sammy Walker McLaughlin, had about 30 points. Okay. When Rem Pitlick was All-American, he had 50. We need some of our top players to take that next elite step. And you've got, whether it's Walker, McManus was our second leading scorer last year. Ranta, we saw in streak. Reedy had 15 goals. Myers, we have a slew. Brodzinski, Sorensen had 7 goals. Brodzinski had 8. We need that whole group of guys to elevate their game to all league type status or another level. And if that happens, we got a chance to be pretty good. And they're excited for that next challenge.
You mentioned the young defenseman. You got a former great defenseman, Paul Martin, now helping you out as an undergraduate assistant. What was Paul like to coach, and what exactly is his role? What does his role entail with you guys now?
There's two things. One is Paul was just one of the greatest defensemen ever played at Minnesota. And then and a great NHL defenseman and natural athlete. The game just comes so simple for him. But how fortunate are we with a young decor that Paul's retired and wants to finish his degree and has time. And so this is my thing. Like last year we had Stu Bickle back helping us. And we're at the mercy because they're a volunteer. Like, you can be here as much as you can be here or as little, we'll take you. He's here all the time and he's soaking in it right now. And he's going to work real close with Garrett at that decor. And I just think that there's going to be a camaraderie with that group that's going to be fun to follow. And I mean, Paul's so respectful, mild-mannered, but he wants. You can feel that he's here and he's excited to be a part of this right now. And we're gonna draw on that as we move through as he gets more comfortable with us, we get more comfortable with him. We're gonna draw on that, and it's gonna be a big help for us.
Well, I just can't imagine being a defenseman at the University of Minnesota and then have a great NHLer, great guy, come in and teach you, the game. I think, I mean, what a bonus for the program.
We know we're awful fortunate to have it taking place with us right now.
Bob, I know you talked about basically all 7 teams in the Big Ten think they can win this thing. That being said, when you're trying to prognosticate the other teams around the conference, is there one that sticks out to you to think, hey, that might be a really good team this year?
Yeah, I mean, even if I thought there was one, like that's the one. I mean, the 2 years I've been in this league, I just think it's been crazy how both years the standings are just a couple points, like we said, can separate. It's staying healthy. It'll be interesting. Like Michigan's got a real young, talented team.
Yeah.
All right. It's hard for young guys, but how are the young guys going to adapt? But they got one heck of a goalie, just give you, I'm probably saying the same things that these guys are saying. Wisconsin's got an enormous amount of offense returning, and they have 3 new goalies. And one of their goalies is going to have to take, to jump up this year and take the reins. And they'll be like us last year. And look what happened with us. And I think the same thing could happen to Wisconsin. Notre Dame, Jeff Jackson does such a good job. They're always the same. They're always in the hunt. They're always going to be in the hunt. He does such a good job. They do such a good job recruiting. Penn State's the one team that lost a lot, but they've got, one of the best players in the conference coming back in Limoges and Talavidi. They've got some good hockey players over there, and they've got a brand that's learned how to win. Michigan State, Danton Cole keeps doing a great job moving that program forward. They were in first place around Christmas last year, and rightfully so. They're older guys. So, I mean, it's 7 teams. Did I miss one? And if I did, I apologize. But it's
Ohio State.
And those guys, they've been right at the top the last handful of years. They were Frozen 4. And they've got some real good hockey players returning. It's every night, and that's what we're just going to beat the snot out of each other. We are, and I don't see it changing. I wish I could tell you we could one team or 1 year we're going to run away with it. It ain't gonna. I don't know. It's going to happen in this league. No. I really. And you're going to see great hockey in the Big Ten. We kind of get beat up over in our region because of history and tradition. But if anyone looks at what's going on right now, watch the World Junior team this year. How many players are coming out of the Big Ten and the World Junior team? We're getting some of the top talent. We've got great coaches. It's good hockey.
Yeah.
Bob, we really appreciate your time as always. We look forward to the season finally starting next week, and we'll talk to you again soon.
We're crossing our fingers. Let's get there.
All right. Thanks, Bob.
All right.
Thanks, Bob.
Awesome.
Bye-bye.
We'll see you.
All right, Bob Motzko, head coach of the University of Minnesota men's hockey team. And like I said, they take on Penn State, hopefully, next Thursday at 7:30, Friday at 3 o'clock. And you can hear both of those games and all Gopher hockey games on Twin Cities News Talk AM 1130, FM 103.5, and the iHeartRadio app. Before we move on, Pat, I'd love to tell our listeners and viewers about a sponsor of Beyond the Pod. That would be sodastick.com. Go to sodastick.com to get your original Minnesota sports-inspired goods. They just launched their partnership with Michelob Golden Light for the Mick Golden Light Hunting Club merch line. The logo features a bottle of Michelob Golden Light with deer antlers. They've got it on blaze orange shirts, hoodies, hats, and more. Get geared up for the hunting opener. If you haven't seen it yet, you got to check it out. And we're going to hook you up with free shipping on your order. Go to KFAN. Use the code KFAN for free shipping. That is sodastick.com. Original Minnesota sports-inspired goods. Use the code KFAN for free shipping. We'll stick on college hockey here, Pat, because I know there's been kind of some uncertainty in the landscape of college hockey with the WCHA splitting, going to CCHA, and how that's going to affect Alaska schools and maybe some of the southern schools. But really some good news out of Arizona State and Alabama Huntsville over the last week since I last talked to you, Pat.
Yes.
Arizona State, they have plans now for a $115 million arena for their men's hockey team. That was approved by a committee of the Arizona Board of Regents. And then last-minute fundraising efforts, including our guy, wild goaltender Cam Talbot. They raised $17 million to save the Alabama Huntsville hockey program that was eliminated back in May for budget reasons. They still need to find a conference, and I don't know how you go about finding conferences when you're in Arizona State and Alabama Huntsville, given the current landscape. But to at least have those two programs with some money behind them and being able to survive, that's a good thing for college hockey.
Yeah, they both have to find leagues. I think eventually now Arizona State is going to join the Big Ten for the conference season this year. They're going to be part of it.
Yeah.
So that's good. That
part of the schedule, yeah.
Part of the schedule. That would lead me to believe that they're probably going to have a chance to join the Big Ten next year. We'll see if they get the building built. That's good news. Huntsville, on the other hand, they've got to find a league. They will not be part of the CCHC or CCHA, I should say, when that league gets going next year. So, I don't know if there'll be some restructuring with the leagues or what. They did raise, I think, 1.7 million. They guaranteed for the next 10 years or so.
17 million.
Good.
Yep.
There's 17 million. Yep. And they're going to have to, the big thing for them is getting an arena built. The arena that they're in right now is not on campus. So they don't get a lot of students there. And, it's, I'm happy that they're able to do this, and hopefully they'll find a home, a league, and everything will work out.
All right, Pat. With college hockey finally starting up, it's time for you to make some predictions.
Yes.
Let's begin with the Big Ten Hockey Conference. Obviously, we're just talking with Bob Motzko, and you never know from a week-to-week basis what's going to happen in this conference. But if you had to pick a team to win it all, who would you predict?
I would pick Minnesota, and I'm going to get called a homer for this. But you just look at the talent that they have. I tell you, with Lacombe and Johnson coming back, I thought at the end of last year, Johnson, the number one pick of the Buffalo Sabres. I'm glad he came back. Smart move. And Jackson Lacombe, those two will log so much ice time, and their games got better on the offensive side as the season went along. And so I think Minnesota will have something on defense the first time since Nate Schmidt, Mikey Riley were there. Guys who can really contribute from the back end. And really, you know what? And Bob was right. It's guys like Walker's got to make that jump. I think he can. Sample Ranta, at times, Brandon looked like he didn't belong in college hockey, looked like he belonged in the NHL. And then at times he looked like he shouldn't have been in college hockey and should have been back in junior. So consistency out of a guy like that. He's big, strong, skate, is everything you want in a player. So consistency there. But I really think, the number of guys that they played last year that were so young and the amount of minutes that they got is really going to help them, really going to elevate their game this year. So I think Minnesota right now is the best team in the Big Ten.
Well, let's face it, Pat. Minnesota needs to take that next step up. You know the history. You know the pride on ice. You know the tradition. 2 years of a new coach. I think that's kind of honeymoon period a little bit. And now year 3, it's time to bring the program back up to where Minnesota fans expect it to be.
Well, and you know you got a guy like Walker and McManus and Reedy who've been there now. You know, it's time for them to say, you know what, it's not about taking pride. They take pride in it, but walk around and act and with a little bit of swagger, like you know what, we are a really good team. Come and beat us. We want the target on our back, and that hasn't been there for a while. I think this team just might have what it takes to get to that level.
All right, let's move on to another conference that seemingly also has a ton of competition, a conference that's been very successful on the national level since its existence as a conference. That would be the NCHC.
Yeah.
Are you on the North Dakota train? Do you think what other competition do you think is going to be out there?
Well, listen, yeah, if I were to pick a national champion right now, I'd pick North Dakota. They are really, really focused group, and they're all business. Not that other teams aren't, but their Hobie Baker candidate from a year ago, Kawaguchi, could have signed a deal. Wanted to come back and win it. They've got some really, really high end players. The big question with them was their goaltending. At times, it wasn't great. It's not bad. Is it going to be enough to get them over the top? But they have a lot of depth, and they're a well coached team. And right now, not surprisingly, they're picked number one in the country.
All right, WCHA. Last year, the two Minnesota teams were at the top
Yep.
before the season ended: Minnesota State, Mankato, and Bemidji State. Do you expect Mankato to be on the top again this year?
Well, Mankato lost, I think, 3 or 4 players that really were instrumental in their team. But the big thing for them is their goaltending. They may have the best goaltender in college hockey, and Dryden McKay. And when you have a guy like that stopping the puck for you, they're going to be really good again. I think they came out in the poll as number 4 in one poll, 9 in another. But they're going to be Mike Hastings does a really, really good job. They're an older, mature team. That's been their MO, and that will not be any different this year. So I expect them to be, in the hunt again. They've gotten to the point where they expect to win now. They expect to win, and listen, Bemidji State, Tom Serratori always gets his team ready. I tell you what, they would have made the tournament a year ago, and because of COVID, obviously, was cut short. But they're always a tough out, and they're going to be real good again.
All right, before we move on and talk a little NHL to close out the show, can you tell us about another sponsor beyond the pod? That would be Culturama.
I sure will. Ever been told your hockey playing child has what it takes to be the next big superstar? Or does he or she stand out, but you are unclear how to obtain player exposure to meet that goal? At Culturama, they cultivate, collaborate, and connect you with opportunities to advance your child's athletic career. They offer free firsthand knowledge on how to become your child's momager or dadager. Or for those who are looking for specialized services, Culturama is here to help. They will personalize a strategic plan, develop a PR and media kits, build and or manage your child's brand. Follow, like, and subscribe to Culturama today to learn how to get started.
All right, NHL, Pat, before we close it out, nothing official yet, though. It does look like January 1st is kind of a target date to start the season. Obviously, the NBA has their season in place, so it might make it a little bit easier for the NHL to piggyback that now. But it looks like the NHL may be considering some hub cities and maybe having to realign the divisions because of Canada. All the Canadian teams might have to be in the same division, which also might mean the Wild have to go out west and start playing with a bunch of the Pacific Division teams and be in a hub out there. I'm wondering if they're going to kind of try to do it like they did in the playoffs, where they had multiple games in one day, and you got games at noon and 3:00, which I'm hoping for because I don't want to have all the 9:00 starts out there on the West Coast, Pat.
No, I know, and it's it's fluid, Brandon, with what's going on in the world, and I think they'll probably end up with multiple plans. I do agree with you what we've talked about in the past, that it's going to be a shortened season. I don't know how they're going to be able to get all these games in. We'll see. I know now that they've got groups of players from the NHLPA and the league, 16 players from the league, kind of going over everything, kind of going through what they went through in preparing for the summer resumption of play. So, we don't know. They're hoping January 1st. I think initially they thought maybe December 1st, and that got pushed. But obviously they want to get going. There are obstacles, no question that they're going to have to encounter and try to work through. But as of right now, what we know is January 1st is the target date.
And if that is when they start, we're 3-4 weeks away from training camps here, Pat.
Yeah.
We'll get to be able to see Kirill Kaprizov in a Wild uniform. We get to see Marco Rossi in a Wild uniform. And I think maybe some of the excitement for the hockey around here will start to pick up.
Well, I think so too, Brennan. And I think, with what Bill Guerin's done, there should be excitement going into the season. You're getting a potential superstar in Kaprizov, and you're getting a chance to look at a budding star in Marco Rossi. And, we want to see that. And, and some of the other players that he acquired during the off season and potentially more. So, I think Minnesota Wild fans should be excited about when, eventually the season will start.
Let's talk about what's going on in Chicago, because it seems like there's some veteran players that have been upset with the just kind of the future, the path that the ownership and the management is going in there, maybe being more of a rebuild. And I saw, and this is just some guy throwing out a trade rumor, but that being said, it starts going everywhere, and all of a sudden, Patrick Kane and trade rumors. So there might be very little to this, but I just want to talk about the topic. Georges Laraque, who used to play for the Montreal Canadiens, is also, I believe, on the radio up in Montreal, stated that he thinks the Canadiens should give up Jesperi Kotkaniemi, Cole Caulfield, who plays for Wisconsin, and a 2021 first-round pick for Patrick Kane. Given where Chicago's at, do you think the Blackhawks would ever consider maybe unloading Patrick Kane or Jonathan Toews?
Well, if that would be his proposed trade, Chicago should not even pick up the phone, because that's not even close to getting what you could get for Patrick Kane. Patrick Kane is a top 5 player in the league, top 10. Okay, you want to go there, whatever. But he is that type of player. Now, I did hear
he's a top 10 player that on any individual season can be a top 5 player.
Thank you. Perfect. Yeah. I hear I've also heard rumors that the New York Rangers would like to acquire him. Or
can you imagine the Rangers with Patrick Kane?
Oh my gosh!
With all the talent they have at the forward position?
And the reason being, him and Panarin are good buddies. Had the chemistry playing together when Panarin came in as a rookie. It's
with Zibanejad and then the two young guys. They've had a top 2 pick in the last 2 years.
Yeah, but herein lies the problem, or maybe not a problem. They'd have to give up a Capo Caco.
Sure. Yeah.
And do you want to do that? And plus a ton more. D'Angelo's name was brought up. It'd be 3 or 4 players plus a draft pick. Maybe
I might do it if I were them.
If I were the Rangers and I had an opportunity to get that, absolutely I would.
Especially while you have Lafreniere on his entry-level contract,
exactly,
and you got the salary space to do it. It might be the time to attack now.
And I tell you what,
and the talent at the goaltender position, the young talent they've got there,
right? And then you have Panarin and Kane together. Whew, that's a pretty good team. So I would think New York would be more of a possibility than Montreal. But boy, oh boy, if I'm the GM, I have a awfully hard time moving Patrick Kane unless it got to the point where he just said, you know what, I'm just not going to play.
If he forced his way out.
Right. Yeah. And we've seen that happen, right? We've seen it happen.
Sure. One more Patrick Kane topic, and agents obviously are going to exaggerate and embellish their own players, but his agent made the comment that he thinks Patrick Kane can play in the NHL until he's 50. Which, I know, I think he's like 31 years old now, but he still looks like a young player. He still plays like a young player, right? I mean, and I do think his playing style, because he's not the most physical guy, and he's not going to get in and beat up his body, that he probably will be able to play longer than most. But maybe he can play into his 40s. You saw Jaromir Jagr do it, but 50 might be a little bit of a stretch.
Well, two names come to mind: Chris Chelios and Jagr, right?
Yep.
And both were complete workout freaks.
Yep.
No one worked harder than Chelios. Maybe Jagr did, and that's and Chelios, I believe, was 47, 46, somewhere.
He was up there, yeah.
Right. And I don't see it. I mean, maybe back in the day he probably could have done it, but these guys now are, the league is still getting bigger, faster, and stronger. Kane doesn't get hit.
And who knows what the league's going to be 15 years from now?
Yeah, we don't know, right? But listen, doesn't matter. He's had a Hall of Fame career, and he doesn't play like Zach Parise and and gets beat up in front of the net like Zach does. So who knows? I put it this way: we all hope he plays a long time because he's so much fun to watch.
If he can play until he's 50, I got to somehow get Leo or Samson to play in the NHL someday. So Leo or Samson could go up against Patrick Kane. That'd just be awesome.
I think this should motivate you to extend your senior league career.
I've had to take a break from men's hockey for about 7 months, and it's kind of killing me, Pat. And at my age, I don't know if I'm ever getting it back once they return. So there are some concerns there.
Right.
And if Leo or Samson play like their father, they got no shot at the NHL. So we're not too concerned about that.
I think I'm going to have to come over and just
you got to work with them.
Get their mindset. Yeah, I'll work with them.
All right, Pat. We really appreciate it. We'll talk again next week. And like I said, we'll be previewing Gophers Penn State next week.
Sounds great.
We'll have actual hockey to talk about.
Have a great week, Brandon.
All right, you too. Thanks, Pat. He's Pat Micheletti. I'm Brandon Mileski. This has been another episode of Beyond the Pod, brought to you by SodaStick.com and Culturama. We really appreciate your time, and thanks to Bob Motzko for joining as well. This has been another episode of Beyond the Pod.